Hello, hello. Welcome. We're going to talk about gender today. And I don't really know where we're going with this, but I was talking with myself 2 nights ago, 2 in the morning, couldn't sleep. I was naked in front of the mirror, just talking, just going in, going in. Um, this is a nightly thing, definitely a nightly thing. But 2 nights ago, I looked at myself and I was like, wow, dude, you look good. You look beautiful. And you look very feminine. You look like you tap back into your feminine nature. And I was enjoying that, and I was kind of like, dancing with myself and smiling with myself, giving myself a little flirt. And then it kind of clicked. There's this little moment of observation. And I was like, wait, did I just say that I tap back into my feminine? I was like, yeah, I did just say that. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? What was the difference in that? Because this is a big question I get. Being gender fluid, which I am, a lot of people ask me what that means and how do I know? And it's such an interesting topic because it's not really very openly talked about in regular media. So I just want to talk about real quick what it means to me and this epiphany that I had last night. And it might resonate, it might not. I would love to know your opinions about this topic and listening to me talk. If you agree, disagree, if you have questions, I would love to know because I think we're all trying to figure this out. And in some way, we're all just stepping into it and evolving with gender and what that means. And just these norms. And so I want to first start by saying that I don't think gender is necessary. I'm like, just I'm a little sick of gender, and like if you were to take away all gender, we would still survive. We'd be okay. As a human race, we'd be fine. We might thrive better. There might be some setbacks. I don't know, but it's not necessary. It's not needed. So I want to make that very clear. There's a difference between gender and natal sex. A lot of people confuse the two and say that you have to be one gender. Gender, to me, is just an expression. It's an expression of your energy. It's an expression of your heart. It's an expression of how you're feeling and navigating your world. And I'm going to go into that a little bit. But I don't think that gender is binary. I don't think that gender is black and white, in other words. It's not this or that, which I think we as a society have made it. If you're a woman, then that means you're not a man. And if you're a man, that means you're not a woman. And if you're neither, then in modern society, a lot more, you're just kind of like, oh, you don't exist. That's not valid. And it's like, well, okay. I don't know what to do with that now. So I think gender is very unnecessary. But when I do kind of gender myself, which barely ever happens, I stop. I'm like, what does that even mean? So last night or 2 nights ago in the mirror said, I'm feeling more feminine. I'm looking more feminine. My posture was different. It was more proud and more straight posture. I was really exaggerating my curves. I have a decently curvy feminine body. And so I was elongating myself to really show off those curves instead of making myself more boxy, which I do when I'm feeling more masculine. There's little things in my posture that I've noticed over the past few years of when I am feeling masculine versus feminine. And my sexual partners have also noticed this, and they're able to tell by my voice, by my eyes, by my posture, by the words that I say, if I'm feeling more masculine or feminine. And they'll ask me and we'll have a conversation about it. And I think it's so interesting that they're able to see this shift after they get to know me a bit better. So it is kind of an apparent thing. And like right now, as I'm speaking, I feel like neither. Like I don't feel like one or the other. I feel very good in my masculine. I feel very sturdy. I feel very structured. I want to tell, I want to share, and I'm feeling very good in my feminine, which is like this faith and no judgment, and it's all good. And I'm going to get more into what those things mean to me. So noticed that I said the word feminine the other day, and I went down this little rabbit hole. I'm like, what does that even mean to me? that I look more feminine, or I'm tapping into my feminine. And I realized that about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I had noticed that I was feeling very masculine. When I was getting undressed, I do something different in the mirror. I don't look at certain parts and I only look at others. Where my mind goes when I'm staring at myself is different when I'm navigating at a masculine feminine. But the one major thing that I found, and I want to be very clear at the beginning that this is an extreme. And I think it's important to talk in extremities. Is that a word? Extremities? Extremities? Whatever. In extreme vocabulary to really make it a point. But this is actually how I was feeling. It was feeling this extreme. I was feeling kind of tied down and blocked with time. I was thinking about money. I was thinking about where to go next. So, timeline and structure and getting things done, how to be perceived, how to do this, and how to make this happen. So, very logic mind, very, I want to say 3-dimensional mind, like very here on this earth, thinking about this linear timeline of what needs to get done, how does it need to get done, how can I get the money for this, how can I do this in order to be perceived this way, the domino effect, understanding how everything is interconnected on this timeline, if that makes sense to you. So that's what I feel as my masculine. And not always, but often when I'm feeling my masculine, very extreme masculine, I feel a bit depressed and I feel a bit stuck in my head. It's hard to meditate. It's hard to be still and silent. And not always, but in the past 2 weeks, it was hard to do this. And then I had this beautiful epiphany. One day I just started talking to myself 2 days ago, and right before I was talking to myself in the mirror, and I had this check-in with myself. And in this check-in, I realized that I've been feeling very blocked and stumped, and I hadn't been feeling very good, which doesn't happen very often with me. So when it does, as I said, it was hard for me to be still. And when I realized that if I sit in silence and all of a sudden I'm like anxious and I want to do something else and I want to pick up my phone or put music on, then I'm avoiding something. And I know that about myself because I spent a lot of time with just me, and I've definitely secluded and isolated myself so much that I understand this pattern and this coping mechanism for myself. So I realized that. And so what I did is I took out my phone, I videotaped this tapping into what I have been suppressing within me, what I've been kind of hiding from emotionally. And I realized within this check-in that I was putting so much pressure on myself to be perfect, to make the next steps perfect in my journey. And so I was writing a book, an ebook for free. It was something that I was very passionate about, but I was feeling so blocked because I wanted it to be perfect that I wouldn't even edit it. I like every time I opened the computer to look at it, I would get fatigued. I would feel overwhelmed. I'd feel tired. I'd realize that I had to do something else, so I would procrastinate, close the computer, and then I'd feel numb. And then it would be in the back of my mind, so I would be driving myself crazy thinking about doing it, and I'd open my computer to do it again, and it was this cycle. And I was feeling stuck in this cycle. So when I was talking to myself, I realized that, and I realized that I had this feeling of needing it to be perfect and how I would be perceived by other people. And when I was speaking about it, I was allowing the energy to move. And emotion is energy in motion. So I was allowing the energy of this emotion to be in motion. And I was, tapping my body, which is something that I do to make me feel, more present. I was yawning and breathing and dancing and shaking and letting it all out. And at the end of it, I was like, oh my God, there's my inner child. Like there's little Charlie feeling seen and heard. I was able to listen to myself and validate myself for these emotions that were emotions that scared me. And oftentimes we don't realize this, but we're running away from it. Because, when you, at least for me, when I would sit in the stillness, in the silence, that's the moment where you're able to tap into how you're actually feeling. And if you're not feeling pleasurable, if the pain outweighs the pleasure, we as human beings want to seek pleasure. And so we distract ourselves from actually sitting in this pain of feeling. It's a very uncomfortable feeling to allow things to be expressed, to accept these insecurities that we have. It feels like a weakness, and so we run from it. And we've kind of been conditioned to run from it. And so it's not your fault, it's not my fault, but it is very important to sit with it and to express it, to acknowledge it, to see it, and to validate it. So after I did that, I was feeling so good. And that's when, I took a shower, was looking at myself naked, and I'm like, damn, bitch, you go, girl. You look good. You look good. And I felt this feminine, I have faith in myself. I can hear myself. I can feel myself. I'm free from my own mental blocks. I just freed myself. And so that is what I feel feminine as. Now, 2 days ago also, and it was interesting, the timeline of this, I saw this graph. I don't know how accurate this graph is. I'm not saying that this is a truth, but it really resonated with me. And this could be confirmation bias. I'm not going to lie. But it kind of clicked something for me. So if you're thinking of emotions, if you're watching this, then you're able to see my hand motions. If you're listening to this, then this is a visual thing. So I'm going to try to describe this for you. So if you're looking at all the emotions, let's just say there's like 12 major emotions, I think, or 15, I don't know, something like that. But anyway, at the very bottom, there's fear and anger and sadness. And these emotions we often hide from because we consider them to be low frequency emotions. Although, sidebar, all emotions are valid. All emotions are meant to be felt. They're okay to feel. You're not broken if you feel one all the time, but it needs to be acknowledged, okay? So let's just go with sadness. That's down here, right? Down at the bottom. And when you're thinking about the frequency of these emotions, it's breaking again once more. Emotion is energy in motion. What is energy? Energy is a wavelength. Okay, so what is the wavelength of sadness? You can imagine a straight line, and then all of a sudden there's just little waves in it. It's like an ocean that has barely any waves, little mellow waves, almost a straight line, but not quite. Then you go up the top to happiness or joy or excitement. And even when you say those words, you're like, woo, you get wound up. It's like a spring that's really compressed. And it's this really quick wave, really big up, down, fast motion wave. So that is what was on this graph. And when I saw this, something clicked for me. Because about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, on TikTok, someone asked me, what does it feel like? What does feminine feel like to me? And what does masculine feel like? And masculine feels like sharp lines, like sharp edges, straight lines, linear, pointy, crispy. That's masculine. And feminine to me feels like waves and in circles, and it doesn't really make sense. It's abstract and rounded, right? Very beautiful, like a cloud popping, And so when I'm thinking about this happiness frequency of this really big wave, up and down, really tight and compressed, that's rounded, that's wavy, that's this feminine energy that I felt 2 years ago when someone asked me if I could help visualize how I feel these things. And the masculine was these straight lines, which is almost like sadness. It has that similar linear feeling, more to the point, more mellow. And I want to be clear, I was talking to my stepdad about this, and I brought it up to him. And he was like, he's like, I like that, but I think a lot of people will be triggered that you're saying that masculine is these low frequency emotions, and that it's the bad stuff. And he had a point. He wasn't saying it in a defensive way. He was just giving me his 2 cents, which is incredible. But I think it's important to keep in mind that every single human being has masculine and feminine, at least I believe. And again, my belief is just my belief. It doesn't make it a universal truth. But I believe that everybody has masculine and feminine energies within us, and they are needed to be used with each other. It's setting up your structure. It's saying, hey, I know I have this ability to get from point A to point B, this linear line. I need a budget. I need to be on this three-dimensional world and be in society and kind of live. If I really want this goal, I have to be structured. I have to jump into it. I have to know what I'm doing, which is masculine, getting shit done, masculine. And you have to have that. You don't have to, but I think it works in balance when you balance the feminine and masculine, because then the feminine comes in, and that's the faith. It's saying, I have faith in myself. I have faith in this world. I have faith that if I do jump, if I make this leap from A to B, if I go all in, if I try, I'm putting myself in the arms of possible failure, of possibly not doing it, but I have faith that I will get it done and that it will be okay. And so you need both of those. You need this structure and you need this faith. You need solid holding on and knowing kind of how things are going to work out logically. And you need this letting go, this breath, this exhale spiritually. And I really believe that things work out well when you are in touch with both your masculine and feminine. It doesn't mean the masculine is bad. And some people, of course, can be very masculine and very happy. I'm not saying you can't have one without the other, or you can't be masculine without being happy. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it was just an interesting observation that I had when I was sitting with myself at 2 a.m. naked, staring at myself in the mirror. And, like I said, if you felt triggered by this, or if you disagree with this, or if you have a different opinion, or if you have questions, I would love to hear about it, because this is something that I think is important to talk about. And I don't believe that there's any right or wrong answer here. I think it's just a dialogue. It's experience. It's my experience, and hearing your experience and hearing everyone's experience will help us understand perspective and perception. And for something that is not necessary in living as human beings, I don't think there's a right and wrong. So that's basically all I wanted to talk about. And yeah, I feel pretty good about this one. Cool. Well, you can find me on Instagram if you want to DM me any questions or talk about this or anything else. You can DM me on Instagram at McKee. You can find me on Patreon if you want to subscribe. I write blogs, first look at the podcast, one-on-one conversations once again. And honestly, it's just to support me. It's a subscription to support me travel, to experience new things, to live my life. So if you want to support me on Patreon, I would highly appreciate that. It is patreon.com/thecharliemckee, or actually /CharlieMcKee. No the. And yeah, support me wherever you can if you feel like it. And I hope that you all have a gorgeous and beautiful day.